Would you believe me if I told you this is what people have been posting about Gypsy Rose?
Stop it. Get some help.
Yeah, kind of insane. No, she's not a beauty guru, but rather known for her upsetting past and the action she took against her own mother. First of all, Gypsy has already been cancelled. Well, sort of. Although most people are hoping, with time, Gypsy is able to live the most normal life she possibly can after her past. Some are criticizing her for inconsistencies that have been popping up as more and more documentaries and interviews come out. This is what at least a few users online have expressed, and by inconsistencies, they clarified that under oath at Nick Godejohn's trial that they did some adult dancing, if you know what I mean, in the movie theater bathroom as a plan to fall pregnant so Dee Dee would let them be together. But in the Lifetime documentary, she claims they actually didn't do the dancing because certain body parts wouldn't collaborate. This user also said Gypsy has changed what the last thing her mom said to her was multiple times, but they did also say that these inconsistencies could be due to memory or trauma related, but it does affect and poke holes for her credibility. They actually advised for Gypsy to be cancelled as soon as possible so she doesn't get into trouble with the parole board. And following a podcast Gypsy appeared on, some viewers accused her of being manipulative, which just fueled this general idea. I understand both sides of this debate. Should she have been cancelled for it? That's up to you. But Gypsy responded to the haters in the most throwback way possible because she posted this onto Instagram. Yeah, keep calm and ignore the haters. Her caption even read, "Those who choose to stay ignorant about my personal growth as a person and place labels on me do not influence my happiness. Spread love, not hate." She has kept this photo up and actually got a puppy just recently, and I'm curious to know what your thoughts are about her Instagram keep calm post, because personally I would be lying if I said I didn't think it was a little funny.
Well girl, how old are you? I'm getting nervous.
Hold on, let's backtrack, but hold on to that age thought. On Instagram, Gypsy already began shouting out some people she knew, and this actually caused people to leave a ton of comments under her photos. In a now deleted photo, Gypsy originally posted a selfie of her and her nephew with the caption, "Hanging out with my nephew Noah," and then she tagged his account before saying, "Girls, show my boy some love and hit his DMs. Only the age appropriate ones though, he's only 15, LOL." Although it was pretty obvious for some that her nephew must have asked for the shout out, as he did quickly gain thousands of followers, and the caption would lead some to believe that, others were questioning his safety. It's not like Gypsy's a famous TikToker, she has done her time for her past, but regardless it still happened and may not have been the best audience watching her social media. Yes, a ton of young teens making edits of her, but stranger danger. With all the backlash with those worried about Noah's safety, she then wrote, "My nephew wanted me to post a picture and his parents and grandparents gave me permission to do it. It is all in good love." One person said, "I love you Gypsy, but please keep him safe. There's weirdos on here." And another person really went there and said, "Miss Girl, you of all people should know about the crazies you can meet online." And of course this user is referring to Gypsy's relationship with Nicholas Godejohn, who she met online and later planned together how they would take Dee Dee's life. No matter the goal, I think internet safety is something we should always have in the back of our minds, and with the internet being used now more than ever, it is important to keep our children's safety, and that includes Gypsy's nephew. I personally don't think Gypsy meant any harm in the situation. I just don't think she was thinking about safety when she should be. But I'm glad she did take the photo down, and hopefully it was because she recognized the dangers rather than because of the backlash she received. One of the first criticisms Gypsy faced following her release was actually targeted for her husband Ryan Anderson. The two got married back in 2022 after Ryan initially watched the HBO documentary about Gypsy, and this prompted him to mail her a letter. They tied the knot behind bars, but the day of Gypsy's release, he was right there with her at 3:30 a.m. If you don't mind waking up early for me, maybe you're the right one. Right away, paparazzi captured photos and Gypsy shared photos onto Instagram, which brought Ryan into the spotlight. Right away, people started to call the couple Lois and Peter Griffin as a way to mock his appearance. The public was canceling Ryan and even judging how they assumed his personality would be. I saw so many comments saying that he gives bad vibes, has a creepy look, and all that, and this was before he even said anything, and the only thing available was his physical appearance for people to judge, I guess. It was like Ryan was being cancelled for simply existing. He hasn't really done anything wrong that I am aware of, at least. And he even told people before Gypsy was released that he was a little anxious about being in the spotlight because he is a very private person. But don't worry, Gypsy was not gonna let her man get cancelled, because she would defend him in her Instagram comments with the kind of iconic quote of,
"Living my best life and y'all can't take that from And the D is
As more and more time has passed, the public has started to see Ryan through a different pair of eyes, as most of the comments I see now are actually praising him for being seemingly supportive and genuine. But that's not the only criticism Gypsy has got regarding her husband, because yes, she is a free woman and can do whatever she wants, but many have expressed how Gypsy has never had time to herself in a way. Growing up, her mother was always right there with her. Then later on, it was Nick, who she was able to eventually act on the plan for the two that they created. And now that she is released from prison, she's already married to Ryan, and some just think she needs some time alone in order to truly grow as an individual. What do you think about this? Because I think Ryan could be good in the sense of her transitioning, but also she probably does need time to herself instead of relying on people for her whole life. Social media has given us memes, celebrities, and even cyber bullies. Wait, cyber bullies? Well, yeah, of course. Are you new to the internet, silly? Well, anyways, some were actually critical on Gypsy's online presence before she was even released from prison. Although social media is a great way to share things with others around the world, it is also the place where everything you say, do, or even acknowledge will be kept forever. And a ton of people have had online discussions through Reddit about how harmful her online presence will be to Gypsy herself in the long run. Although Gypsy is now free, she is still not as quote-unquote normal as people like you and I. Her past, especially her relationship with her mother Dee Dee and the act she committed with her ex, has affected her from a very young age, and I'm no specialist, but I'm sure she must be emotionally damaged, and all the traumatic events she's been through has impacted her everyday life since then. Plus, she spent 8 years of her life behind bars, which although you do get social interaction, it's not the same as living an actual free life. She wasn't freed from prison until December of last year, making her 32 years old, and she was just 23 when the night Dee Dee's life would be taken from her. That is almost 10 years already, and since she was only a few months old, her mom was already claiming she had a ton of health issues. So for her whole life, she has never been really normal, and now she's finally given a chance to live a normal life. Much of it has been spent online. Many people just think she should live her life offline and stay in therapy, but on social media, people have been looking up to her and treat her like an internet personality. And in 2024, cancel culture is very much alive, as it has been for years. I know we already talked about her social media presence, but another cancellation waiting to happen is her influencer career. Within days of her release from prison, a TikTok user posted a video about her own 2024 predictions, and her prediction was that Gypsy would be collaborating with Kim Kardashian, more specifically as a model for her Skims shapewear brand. Not only did this video gain thousands and hundreds of views, but the TikToker made a follow-up video of the North and Kim TikTok account actually liking her Gypsy Rose Skims model prediction. This ultimately means either Kim or North gave that post a like, and if it was North, she could probably convince her mom to do anything. The TikTok also shared how the whole campaign would align with Kim's views of justice reform, as she is a lawyer as well. But of course, both Kim and Gypsy are quite controversial for their online presence already, and whenever a controversial celebrity collaborates with anyone, they get some of that backlash as well. The Kardashians, although have quite the money, they also have quite the haters, and mixing that with Gypsy's current spotlight and controversies, it would either be a PR nightmare or a business win. Plus, Gypsy has talked about how she actually has tried to reach out to Kim in the past. Back in November, before she was released, she reached out through Twitter expressing gratitude for recommending the HBO documentary about her case. And in that same tweet, Gypsy did mention the idea of teaming up with the billionaire to bring tangible change to the justice system. Although some people call Gypsy attention-seeking, sources close to her have insisted that her commitment to using her platform for prison reform is actually genuine, as it is one of her top priorities since her release. No words from Kim yet, but I guess we'll see. I think right now Gypsy has kind of tiptoed into cancellation, because I'm sure it would be hard for her to avoid, as she does have a controversial past. But I wouldn't consider her cancelled like others, because she still has quite the following and her comments are not yet flooded with backlash. I do think it's important to her to maybe take a step back, as she has good intentions to become an advocate, but maybe she should prioritize her own growth first. I obviously want all your thoughts surrounding this, because everyone has different opinions. Name someone who's never been cancelled. I bet you can't. Gypsy Rose has been very controversial for obvious reasons, but many are fearing for her mental health after becoming a so-called influencer. Firstly, Gypsy was kinda cancelled before even entering prison back in 2015, and this was because of the horrific scene that was found at her mother Dee Dee's home. Dee Dee was found without a pulse, and it was clear someone broke in and did this to her. They found Gypsy's medication and wheelchair, but no Gypsy, which continued to confuse everyone. Eventually, once Gypsy was caught, the whole story started to come together. Gypsy was now not only a perpetrator, but also a victim, as it was revealed her mother went to great lengths to pretend Gypsy had many health complications. Gypsy didn't just stay at home occasionally to play the role of a sick child, but Dee Dee instructed her to stay in her wheelchair and not move her legs, was homeschooled, and not allowed to be friends with anyone her own age. Gypsy even had a feeding tube and underwent surgical procedures. Gypsy didn't even know she didn't have cancer until after she was caught by police. But in weeks before the scene was found, Gypsy began talking to a boy she met on the internet by the name of Nicholas Godejohn, and his dark thoughts aligned with Gypsy's sense of feeling trapped, as she felt like a prisoner to her own mother. And the two plotted out a plan which would ultimately end the life of Dee Dee Blanchard. As most people are able to understand Gypsy's past, which led her to her decision she made, some still bring this up. Although I've seen many people saying that Gypsy had no other way out of her mother's control and what she did was the only way, others believe she didn't have to take her own mother's life and there was other options. And with the weeks leading up to her release date, social media was already preparing for her, as there were tons of people making edits about how they were anticipating her release, as they didn't think Gypsy deserved to be behind bars in the first place. And all this attention and praise for someone as controversial as Gypsy has also caused other people who just so happened to stumble on one of these videos to provide some insight on why it may not be the best idea to support someone like this in the same way you would support your favorite actors or singers. Personally, I think a lot of the public tries to understand Gypsy to an extent and are hoping she's able to finally live a life of freedom, but some things have also been taken too far in the sense of idolizing her. With more and more people becoming Gypsy fans, people wanted them to remember what the message is rather than just jumping onto trends because they're trending. And while Gypsy was behind bars, she found multiple love interests. First, she got engaged to Ken, a man that contacted her after watching the HBO documentary about Gypsy's early life, and after he wrote a letter of support, they started talking back and forth on a weekly basis as they quickly became friends. It was only time before they started to spend hours talking to each other on the phone, and Gypsy even says she feels like she's known him her whole life. And after letters and phone calls came the meeting. So Gypsy sent him a visitation form to see her in prison, but within their first meeting, he leaned over and gave Gypsy the most wonderful kiss of her whole life. That was her words, not mine. Ken ended up proposing in October of 2018, but their relationship was off and on as they briefly called off their engagement in August of 2019 before reuniting. And in her Lifetime series, she detailed how every time she got close to someone, they would leave her. So why is this causing controversy? Well, Gypsy reached out to Ken without Ryan, who was her current husband and fiance at the time, without any of his knowledge. So some of the internet have called her a cheater and not being faithful. And this was after Gypsy and Ryan got into a huge fight before their nuptials, and Gypsy opened up about her lingering feelings for Ken, and during a phone conversation the two had, she told Ryan she had a dream that she left him for Ken. All I'm gonna say is Ryan is a lot stronger than I am. Speaking of Ryan, he married Gypsy while she was still behind bars in 2022, and he was waiting for her outside of prison at 3:30 a.m. ready to pick her up. But as soon as she was released, the paparazzi were right there waiting for her as well. And Gypsy isn't really shy from controversy and not new at receiving hate, but Ryan was. And many people were dragging Gypsy for marrying someone who looked like Ryan, which was so uncalled for, as many were just judging him for the way he looked. People were saying he was Peter Griffin and Gypsy was Lois, and others started to judge him as a person without him actually saying a single word. A lot of comments of what I read were about people saying Ryan looked a lot like Dee Dee and how Ryan looks creepy and he gave them bad vibes. But if Ryan wasn't bullied by the internet, then Gypsy would have never made her comment defending him with the quote, "The D is fire." She received backlash just a few weeks ago after she gave her nephew a shout out on her Instagram account, which has over 6 million followers. In a now deleted post, she originally posted a selfie of her and her nephew with the caption, "Hanging out with my nephew Noah," before tagging his account and continuing to say, "Girls, show my boy some love and hit his DMs, only the age appropriate ones though. He's only 15, LOL." And the caption alone led many to believe it was harmless, as Noah probably asked her for the shout Shoutout, but on the other hand, others were questioning his safety and Gypsy's potentially bad choice. And with all the controversy, she commented under her original photo and wrote, "My nephew wanted me to post a picture and his parents and grandparents gave me permission to do it. It's all in good love." But some raised concerns as Gypsy met some internet strangers herself back when she was younger, and it was definitely not a good decision. I mean, she met Nick online and we all know how that's going. One person commented, "Miss Girl, you of all people should know about the crazies you can meet online." Although I personally don't think Gypsy did this with any bad intent, it's a good thing people are raising awareness on these topics as internet safety is still something that is spread and shared around to this day. And she ultimately took the photo down, so hopefully she learned from that. Since Gypsy has been released from prison, some have continued to question if she really is free. And I know it's a little confusing, but for all of Gypsy's life, her mother Dee Dee had full control over her. And when Dee Dee was no longer in the picture, she started to be in relationships which included Nick, Ken, and Brian, plus an additional 8 years behind bars, which is obviously not the same as freedom. And because of the constant cycle of meeting new people or having another half, some argue she's never really been truly independent and hope she's able to find that independence somehow. I'm sure it makes it easier having Brian by her side as she's able to adjust to her new life, but at the same time, being able to do things on your own is obviously important too. And when Gypsy was just a few months old, her mom was already telling people she had a ton of medical issues, so literally from the day Gypsy was born, she was kinda always under someone's authority in a way. A lot of people didn't know this, but while Gypsy and Nick were plotting the night they would take Dee Dee's life, Gypsy actually sent Nick a video. And this video was kind of like a house tour as she showed him around the home, so he would have a better understanding of the layout he would have to navigate in the dark after Dee Dee fell asleep. It is so freaky knowing that Gypsy literally filmed a video to help her boyfriend at the time find her mother and do unthinkable things to her. This detail alone is heartbreaking, and many people have talked about this since and sharing their opinions online. Influencers are known for being famous, rich, and problematic. There's countless fake apologies online, and basically every influencer in existence has fake cried and apologized for anything and everything. So when people noticed Gypsy has kind of been falling under that category, they weren't too pleased. Gypsy has since grown a massive following on all of her social media platforms and even has other brands and celebrities following and replying to her. People in her comments even to this day are warning her about the dangers of social media, and she technically has not really experienced modern social media as she did enter prison in 2015, and we all know how times have really changed. Many people are just hoping Gypsy seeks support from professionals as they believe she has a lot of work ahead when it comes to healing rather than focusing on putting herself forward for the internet. Another controversy that has barely begun was her rumored collaboration with Kim Kardashian. When you have two controversial figures, you're going to have a controversial reaction. So Gypsy, while still behind bars, shouted out Kim Kardashian on X because Kim made a list of documentaries which included Gypsy's HBO one. So in her tweet, Gypsy also said, "Maybe we should unite forces together to make real change within the justice system." And on the first day of 2024, I saw a TikTok which was about this user's 2024 predictions, and one of them was about Gypsy Rose collaborating with Kim as a Skims model for Kim's line. And the user also added how Gypsy is perfect for Kim because Kim has always talked about justice reform and the whole connection and the law. Some thought that they could do something with this. And then the same user uploaded another video showing a screenshot that Kim and North shared TikTok account actually liked her Skims prediction, which further solidified her thoughts, but none have been officially confirmed. So only time will tell. But obviously some were excited and others believe Gypsy didn't deserve that type of platform, but the same can be said about Kim as these two are just not the Keanu Reeves in our minds. And with all of Gypsy's hype, many have already talked about her potential downfall. David Schmid, who is an associate professor of English at the University of Buffalo who studies America's obsession with stories like Gypsy's, he said he wasn't surprised at all that people were beginning to turn on her. And this was a perfect example of what dominates social media activity, which is an endless repeating cycle of controversy, outrage, and our rights to say whatever to whoever without consequences. He added, "Once we've chewed her up and spat her out, we'll move on to someone else and then it'll go on." Plus, as Gypsy has started to do interviews and podcasts, people have been dissecting dissecting and possibly overanalyzing about how Gypsy talks and even squeezes her husband Ryan's arm in one video, with another questioning why Gypsy's voice goes higher pitched sometimes and other times not so much. I found a whole Reddit thread about Gypsy's inconsistencies, as some believe her story has been changing, but others say that she's gone through so much that her memory may not be perfect. Anyways, do you think Gypsy's going to be in the spotlight for a long time, or is this more of a phase? I mean, the internet turned a yodeling kid at Walmart into a star, so anything's possible.